Hello gamers, Steelovsky here, and today I want to give you plenty of tips on Nightfall. For people that might not know, Nightfall is a highly anticipated mod for Dark Souls Remastered that is doing something with the game mechanics that no mod ever done before. Because of all the numerous changes, the game plays simply differently. To be on one side with the terminology in the video, let me explain you that this stance, where our protagonist is holding a weapon with both hands, is called a shade stance. Whereas the stance where the protagonist is holding the weapon with one hand is called a normal stance. It is also worth to mention that some mechanics might change in the official release of the mod, as for now we only have access to the demo. Alright, so without any further ado, let's get into it. Shade stance makes you move really fast in the combat, but it doesn't do much when you are outside of it. Technically you can dash around to move faster, but every another dash is taking 20% more stamina. In practice it is working in the way that you're gonna dash like 3 times and you're out of the stamina. You can solve this problem by utilizing this traverse tech. Instead of dashing repeatedly, throw some dash attacks and running attacks in between the dashes. My personal favorite one, although not that easy to do, is running attack into the backstep, into the dash attack, into the dash, into the running attack. If you don't feel comfortable with doing 180 backsteps, also called as ravioli tech, you can always just use regular dash instead. The whole sequence is simply not going to be as smooth as it could be, still good enough. After finished sequence, you can start holding your running button as soon as you're gonna reach around 75% of your stamina bar. Then you can repeat the traverse tech. Effectiveness of this tech is depending on the weapon that you are using. In my opinion, the best one, at least at the given moment, is Tachi, and that's the weapon that I suggest to use this tech with. When you are doing the running attack in the normal stance, a lot of weapons have essentially no recovery time. It means you can do the running attack into the backstep, which allows you for very safe poke, as backsteps in this mod have as much iframes as your regular dash. Utilizing the normal stance over the shade stance has another benefit, in fact quite a big one, and that is dodging in the normal stance seems to have more iframes than dodging in the shade stance. On top of that, it is impossible to heal in the shade stance, so overall, utilizing the normal stance is simply safer. The only downside is the stamina regeneration, as it is significantly slower than in the shade stance. But hey, something for something. Dark Souls Remastered might be kinda janky at time, especially with stuff like lack of possibility to dash diagonally when you are in the lock mode. Since Nightfall is rather fast-paced mod, these jankiness are even more apparent than in the original game. I strongly suggest to play without the lock against bigger type of the enemies. Whereas Nightfall kinda follows the idea from Bloodborne, so essentially all the armor sets in the game have pretty much same stats or no stats at all, there is one thing that makes particular sets simply better than others. Poise is working exactly the same way like it was working in the original game. Because of that, it is simply worth it to equip as much poise as it is possible. Weapon movesets are way richer than in the original game. Because of that, it is always worth to see what type of the combos you can do with your weapon. For example, if you are gonna click R1 into the L1 with the straight sword moveset, you're gonna end up with the very quick sequence of the attacks with very little time of the recovery. It allows you to unleash quick sequence of the attacks on your enemy while still remain relatively safe. What I want to say is that you're supposed to take the weapon and firstly try it. See what type of the combos seems to be the most useful, how much of the recovery time you have on them, and how much stamina they do take. On example of Tachi, if you're gonna click R1 twice and then gonna follow up with L1, you're gonna end up with overall 4-hit combo. It is better to unleash this type of sequence instead of mashing the R1 because it simply takes less time. It means you can apply the bleed from the weapon faster and you can dodge faster. And last but not least, don't get overly attached to one type of the weapon. In the fight against Frost Saint, which is third boss in the game, you can take a heavy weapon like Glided Regalia and abuse open windows of the boss to apply not only like a lot of damage, but also a stagger. That being said, once the boss reaches half of the HP, second phase starts, and the moveset of the boss changes. It is faster, it is harder to punish. You don't have enough time to unleash as much attacks as you could before, and because of that you cannot apply the poise damage. Because of that, it is simply better to swap your weapon to something lighter with faster recovery frame. Then you can simply poke the guy to death. Well, that's about it. That was, let's call it kind of experimental type of the format. So let me know what you think about the video in the comment section, let me know if the tips helped you, and thank you a lot for watching. I see you later in the next one.